I can tell you that during Q4, everybody will be looking for the best deal. So you have to make sure that you'll attract your potential customers' attention with lots of promotions.
This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Have you been thinking about Q4? We have, and in this episode of the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast, Julie actually spoke with our 3 PPC managers at Bobsled Marketing about what their top tips for Q4 are. So today we're going to hear from Ioana Andries, Stefan Georgiev, and Will Hare on the team, who all collective wisdom over the past few years working with Amazon PPC to give you all some guidance around what you should be thinking about from an advertising standpoint as we get into Q4. So it seems a little early. I've definitely noticed in July and through to August, some momentum slowing down with a lot of brands I've been talking with. People are out on vacation or their boss is out on vacation. Not a whole lot of decisions getting made right now, but this is the right time to start thinking about Q4 and how you're going to prepare. PPC is obviously just one piece of that, but very critical. And as we'll learn, there are some things that brands really need to start doing now in Q3 in order to prepare. So let's jump in with Julie's first conversation with Ioana Andries, who is new to Bobsled, but not new to Amazon PPC. And she's going to share a few of her main takeaways. One of the themes that comes up with Ioana and with the other PPC managers is around inventory. And so listen in to her recommendations on when inventory needs to be figured out. Ioana also has a great tip on where to find the best performing keywords for your campaigns and how often to revisit those as well. So let's dive in with Julie and Ioana's conversation.
So I've asked you to join us today so that you can offer your top 4 tips for brands and sellers as they begin to prepare for the wonderful time of Q4 on Amazon. We all know it's a huge time of year on Amazon and it's never too early to get ready. So today I've asked Ioana to share with us her top 4 tips for preparing for Q4 on PPC. So before we even get into those top 4 tips, I said it's never too early, but when typically should brands and sellers start preparing for Q4, in your opinion?
Basically, I would say that starting September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good idea to have some ideas around inventory and products you want to target. And if you're looking to launch new products, you'll want to have it rolling before September, but getting your PPC campaigns in order with an eye on November, December. If you start that in September, your thought is that's enough time to get efficiencies in place.
Indeed. This is when you should start to put all your things in order.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we go through and you can first just offer us your top 4 tips and then we'll go back and dig into each one of these.
So to make it as a top, in my opinion, the first one would be the inventory, then the reports analysis and data extraction, then the budget, and last but not least, the promotions.
You led with my absolute favorite, the inventory preparation. So even in PPC conversations, inventory comes up because after all, quite obviously, you can't advertise a product that isn't there. But from an advertising perspective, can you tell me a little bit about the impact stockouts can have on campaigns that are running?
Yep. Once you run out of stock, obviously your campaigns for the products that are out of stock will be automatically paused. And they will be paused for a week or maybe some days. It can take time for the campaigns to be efficient again. It depends on how long it can take. It's a couple of days or even weeks if the product is very competitive. It can take time until the campaigns will start to get impressions again, clicks, and of course until the ad position will be adjusted.
Yeah, so I imagine the longer you're out of stock, the more ground you have to make up once the products come in stock, would you say?
Yes, this is absolutely true. And for example, if you keep a campaign pause for a long time, maybe a month, 2, or maybe 3, you can just take the campaign as new. And it can take up to 6, maybe more weeks to get them on track.
Yeah, kind of the rule of thumb with PPC is it does take campaigns to about 6 weeks to take hold. And so that's a good point. If it's 2 or more months where you're out of stock, you can essentially treat it as a brand new campaign because the competitor landscape can change so much in that time, as can the keywords that rank. So really avoiding stockouts is key.
Yep.
And what are the target dates for having inventory in so that brands are prepared for the rush of Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all of Christmas sales season?
I would say that all your inventory should be in Amazon warehouses by the end of October.
Yes. Yeah, the warehouses get slammed at that time. So you don't want to give yourself a week for them to process your inventory because that won't be enough time. So plan ahead with inventory. Great. So what else should we be paying close attention to as we prepare for Q4? In regard to PPC?
Oh, I would say reports analysis and data extraction. For sure, before you're starting any campaign for this period, you have to get your search term reports for the last 60 days, extract there the best performing keywords and getting the most out of them during Q4. But this is not enough. You have to make sure that you analyze them as often as possible because the customer's behavior is changed during the Q4. So you want to make sure that you will target them correctly.
So the customer search term report is kind of your go-to report here in terms of both preparation for Q4 and then throughout those few months, correct?
Yes. And this is the most important, but of course, all of them are, but this one is giving you the most valuable information.
So when you say that you want to target the best performing keywords that you identify in that report, what are the metrics that you're using to determine the highest performing keywords?
From the report, all the metrics are extremely important, but to make a top, I would say impressions, the CTR, because this metric will show you how relevant is your product for a specific keyword, and of course the ACOS.
Got it. Okay, so CTR, the click-through rate.
Yes, indeed.
And how frequently do you suggest checking the search term report during this period?
I would do it weekly.
Okay. So when you prepare your campaigns using this data analysis and the information you get from the reports, is it best to have the campaigns up and running for a few weeks before the craziness of Q4 kicks in? Or how long do you need to have new campaigns up and running before they have enough efficiency and traction to really be effective?
I would start them at least with 2 weeks before, adjust them on time because taking already the best performing keywords from the other campaigns will give you like a step ahead. So I would say that at least 2 weeks and then you just have to adjust them as often as possible, probably weekly, I would say.
Got it. So it doesn't need necessarily that 6-week window to be effective because you have a collection of data that you're mining from.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to your next tip about budgets. What can you tell me about budget preparation and things that sellers should have in mind during Q4?
During Q4, you have to monitor all the campaigns as often as possible, especially when all the events are happening. I know Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and of course Christmas. Also, Amazon will notify you when you're almost out of budget. But as an idea, I would say to increase your budgets probably with 100% that you usually use for your product.
Well, that's a significant increase. And what's the window where you see that brands need to really have maximized their budget? Is it from beginning of November all the way through end of December, or is it a shorter window in there that you tend to target?
No, I would say exactly in the period of the events, 1 or 2 days probably before Black Friday, the same for Cyber Monday. But for Christmas, I would say with probably 2 weeks. And very, very important, drop your budgets 3 days before Christmas because I think this would be the last day when people will be buying presents. Nobody will search for a present in the Christmas day.
Yeah, you'd hope they're a little more prepared, huh?
Yep.
So I think the inclination can be go big or go home in Q4. And so people might adjust their bids really aggressively. Do you have any words of caution around bidding too aggressively?
Don't get trapped. This is what I usually say during this period. Increase the bids as much as you see the performance. Verify your reports as often as possible, because you will see even during Q4 that your bids will get adjusted. So you will find the best margins for your bids, so you'll get the best performance. You don't have to, if you have good sales and good ACOS and you see that your sales are increasing, you don't have to increase your bids aggressively. Just increase them step by step, a little bit. At some point, just stop.
Got it. So you want room in the budget for lots of clicks, but you don't want to have super aggressive bids eat up all that budget unnecessarily.
Yes, indeed.
So just like with the report analysis for keywords, it's important to let the data tell the story for the bid optimization as well here.
Of course.
And so your last tip was around promotions. What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you that during Q4, everybody will be looking for the best deal. So you have to make sure that you'll attract your potential customers' attention with lots of promotions. In my opinion, the most efficient and the ones with the bigger impact for the sponsored products campaign would be coupons, because they just show up there as a little badge and the customers can see it easily.
Yep. The visibility of coupons as a promotion is really fantastic. Other promotion types that are on the product page can be rather buried and don't show up in search results, but the coupon visibility showing up in search results make it a really effective promotional tool.
Indeed.
Are there any other promotion types or promotion strategies that you'd recommend for sellers to consider related to PPC?
For impact of PPC, I don't think that you will see such differences. I think that coupons are the most efficient and have the biggest impact. But I would definitely add also some percentage off promotions, because, as I said, people will look for the best promotion and will be most likely to scroll to your listing and see there under the promotion section what you have for them.
Great. Yeah, that visibility, you can't beat it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, thank you for your time today. It was great to talk to you and to hear your insights, and definitely some key takeaways for sellers here. So inventory is the basis of it all. You have to have product in order to advertise it. Report analysis, let the data tell the story and help it set up your plans for Q4 with PPC. Budgets, you want to have plenty of room in your budget to allow for more clicks throughout Q4. And then really, if you want to drive your advertising forward even more, advertise in conjunction with some promotions. And Ioana's key takeaway here is coupons are your friend. So thank you, Ioana. It was great having you on the podcast today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Julie. Nice to be here.
All righty.
So next up, we have Stefan Georgiev, who's been with Bobsled for just over 2 years now as a PPC manager. And Stefan is super methodical about setting up campaign structures logically so that you can actually review the strategy that you've put in place and make sure that it's effective and continue building on that over time. So definitely listen in to what his recommendations are there around setting up the campaign structure in a logical way that's going to help drive results.
Being mindful of your budgets, combining advertising with coupons, and just getting inventory in place before you start doing anything, they all seem like great ideas. Maybe thing I would recommend alongside the coupons plus advertising strategy is if we have those products promoted and we have coupons running for them, one thing we want to be keeping in mind is grouping them together to launch some new headline search ad campaigns. We know this is a period of time where people are buying a lot of gifts, a lot of presents for their loved ones. So if we have some products which are similar or can be bought together, it might be a good idea to have them running within a single headline search campaign. It might lead to people purchasing several products in one purchase, or just maybe try different styles of some similar products you have, which are promoted with your headline campaigns. And again, if you have the coupons, when they land on that listing page, the coupon should do the trick of, increasing your conversion rates, getting people to click on it and just, move forward towards the purchase.
Nice. So you're you're in agreement that really leveraging coupons during Q4 is a important promotional strategy. But then another angle on this from PPC is to go with another ad type with the headline search ads to leverage the impact of that promo, but also potentially upsell a customer with other products, related
Absolutely,
products in the catalog.
Coupons and advertising, they seem to be a good idea throughout the whole year, but just making sure you have sponsored product campaigns leading to the products which have coupons running for them and headline search campaigns that lead to those same products would be a great way to make sure you have additional traffic towards the listings you have coupon running for.
Nice. You really want to cover your bases by not just having, sponsor product ad type. You want to be going with headline search ads as well. Nice. So tip number 1, I'm hearing you're piggybacking off of the coupons that you want to mention, and you're recommending expanding your ad types as well. What other tips would you offer?
One tip that I will be definitely following this year is probably making sure you get the structure right. I know a lot of people in PPC professionals are interested in the results Q4 has compared to the months before it, in the period of the year before it. So if you want to make sure you have distinguishable data between Q4 and the other months of the year, it might be a good idea to create a Q4 campaign, separate campaign, or just have Q4 campaigns per product if they don't have the same keywords for them. This way, you can have your campaign running on October 1st and, have it paused or terminated on December 31st. And once that ad data settles, you will have the Q4 data that you want to be looking at and be able to compare to the performance you've had before Q4 in the year. So maybe just a quick tip would be to have the Q4 campaigns running separately just for comparison purposes.
I like it. The beautiful part of January following Q4 is getting to dig into the data and see how things performed as compared to years prior, but definitely timeframes prior to Q4. And so organizing your campaigns in that way makes it really easy to call out where some of your strategies had impact.
It will save you some analysis time in January.
I like it. I love any of those organizational tips that we can offer. So very cool. What else would you suggest to sellers as they're getting ready for Q4?
Probably another one would be, and this is just speaking from Prime Day experience, which we had recently, is maybe just resist the urge to increase your bids across the board.
That is an astounding recommendation. Ioana said the same thing. To have anyone related to Amazon saying, don't spend more in that way or don't be aggressive with bids is a unique angle. Tell me more about the rationale behind that recommendation.
Just a slight clarification. We're definitely recommending you spend more on advertising and definitely recommending you have enough budget on campaigns to be running throughout the whole day. It is just increasing your bids on all the keywords, all campaigns across the board. One of the recommendations that I'm sure Amazon will have leading into Q4 might be a bit of a trap, especially for keywords for which we're not sure about how their performance will be. I just want to mention we've had a few established sellers we work with here in Bobsled who were actually doing this kind of thing around Prime Day. They actually made sure they have enough budgets. They gave us autonomy to increase the budgets of the campaigns, but we just kept their bids level similar or identical to what we had leading into Prime Day. And it's actually been a great learning experience for us, being able to observe the increase in sales we expected on Prime Day and the several days that follow, but also be able to see the ACoS remaining even or, even decreasing.
So really you want the umbrella of the budget to be increased to allow for the extra clicks that happen with the increased shopper activity, but you don't want to get so aggressive in the level of your bids so that you're putting $3 bids on keywords that would translate to eventually a higher ACoS unnecessarily. That's a smart way of managing budget. The restraint, I think, shows really a reliance on what the data is telling you as well. Like in order to do that effectively, you need to be looking at the reports and and knowing what the appropriate bid levels are so that you don't just arbitrarily inflate bids and run through your budgets so quickly. Interesting. I like that angle. So far you've suggested additional ad types with the headline search ads. Also, you've suggested organizing your campaigns so it's clear which are your Q4 campaigns, and so that makes for easier data analysis down the road. You've echoed Ioana's take of increase your overall budget, but don't get so aggressive with bids because you might be wasting money. What would your fourth of the theme is your top 4 tips for preparation for Q4. So what would your fourth tip be to sellers
Julie,
on Amazon?
As I am still under impression of the latest change, which went in full force on August the 2nd around backhand strings, and us being definitely not be permitted to have more than 249 characters available. I think it might be a good idea around Q4 or quite early in Q4, maybe up until mid-October, to make sure you refine those backend search terms and see if you can include some present gift-themed keywords, if applicable to your products, to the product that you're selling, and have them included in your backend. It would make little sense to bid on, gift themes, gift-themed keywords if you're not being indexed for them. But if you make sure you have them in your backend and your products are a good fit for somebody looking for gift ideas around Christmas or around New Year's Eve, you might be able to utilize on that gift-giving theme and be able to start your own individual campaigns around those types of keywords.
So by putting the keywords that relate to your product in the back end, and then you start advertising for them as well in your campaigns, by having them in the back end, you're increasing the relevance of those keywords or of the customer search terms to the keywords that you have in your campaigns and the back end.
Nobody guarantees that if you put keywords there, they will be indexed 100%, but you're increasing your chances to have your auto campaigns running toward the direction you would like, and have your manual campaigns be more relevant and show higher relevancy between the keywords you're targeting and the listing you're promoting with those keywords.
I mean, that really is what Prep for Q4 is all about. Increasing the likelihood, increasing your chances, and coming at your offer and your advertising strategies on Amazon from all angles. You don't want to just go the route of increase your budget. You need to come at it from all angles because that increases the likelihood of your ad showing and customers clicking on your ads and then eventually converting for a purchase. Well, this has been great, Stephan. Thanks for joining us today. Like I said, it was great having you back on the podcast, and it was nice to hear your take on the top 4 ways that sellers can prepare for the lovely Q4 period on Amazon.
Absolutely, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
And finally, Julie spoke with Will Hare, who's been on the team for just under a year and has a long history in PPC and SEO. And something that I took away from Julie and Will's conversation is Will's recommendation to look beyond PPC in Q4. And here we're talking about tools like retargeting ads and display ads. As Will explains, these work very differently to pay-per-click advertising, where you're paying for a click through to your product page or through to your storefront. With display advertising, it's based on impressions. And Will points out that David Ogilvy, one of the pioneers and big thinkers in advertising, says that a customer needs to see an ad 20 times before they'll actually recall that brand or product. So with that in mind, display advertising or impression-based advertising is a very different animal to PPC. Targets the top of the funnel, and it's really built around awareness. So I think it's a great point that he makes to consider running display ads and retargeting and those types of ad placements earlier on in the holiday season so that you're actually building awareness of your brand, of your products, and then following through with a really targeted PPC campaign. Will also has some great insight around what you can expect in terms of sales and results during the holiday season relative to Prime Day, which we just had. So let's roll the next segment of our podcast interview with Will Hare.
Welcome back, Will. Good to have you back on Ecommerce Braintrust.
Hey, Julie. Thanks for having me. Excited to be back and talk about my favorite topic, advertising.
And at the best time of the year, right?
That's
Q4?
right. Q4. Man, my favorite time. It's literally Christmas.
Quite literally. And you get to start celebrating very early, or at least planning for it.
Well, that's how we roll at Bobsled.
Yes. So I've already had some conversations with some of our other PPC managers on the team. And you have some overlap with Iana and the recommendations that she's making, but you take it in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Great minds think alike, right?
Right? I think it just underscores that indeed these are best practices when there's good overlap. I know that planning your inventory falls on your list of top 4. What can you tell me about it?
Absolutely. So just to reiterate on Juana's point, you can't sell a product that you don't have in stock. I mean, that's just basic commerce, right? And so, I just really wanted to share a story off of that. As we have a client that we work with, and they had a really good Father's Day. We ran a promotion. Their products are just right for that particular sale. And we had a sales velocity that was unexpected. And so what happened was it takes a certain period of time for them to restock. And during that time, we had Prime Day come. So because there was improper inventory, they missed a huge opportunity. And really, I just want to share that story is because don't let that be you during Christmas time, which Q4 for us, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, all the holidays in between is just a huge opportunity to get impression share, to increase your sales velocity, and to really do some creative marketing and advertising to get your brand in front of potential customers.
Yeah, I've referred to inventory stockouts in Q4 as like the Grinch.
Yeah.
You can enjoy the fruits of all your labor all year long and be all set for huge sales during Q4. And then to have a stockout happen, it's just one of the saddest sights to see on Amazon. So I think I'm in complete alignment with both you and Ioana about this is definitely a top 4 tip is to get your inventory and supply chain in order.
Without a doubt. And if I'm planning ahead, I would probably stock through Q4 if I can afford it, and then plan on stocking for the first month of January. This way you have a little supplemental supply if sales velocity happens to be really strong during one of the holidays.
Good planning ahead always.
Absolutely.
So what would your number 2 tip be in your top 4 tips for preparing for Q4?
Definitely. So my number 2 tip is conversion rates. What's great about Amazon and what's also great about using any third-party tool that does advertising analytics on Amazon is that you get conversion rates in your product pages. I mean, you're driving traffic there. That's your traffic. And what's the best part is we could see their behavior on the site. So one of the things I would do, obviously, is try to look year over year. What were my conversion rates, but also quarter over quarter and month over month, just to kind of get the pulse of where you are. Are you relevant and are you meeting the needs of customers searching particular queries? And what's great about having historical data is you're able to pull particular keyword queries that align best with the expectations of the searcher. And we can implement those onto your product pages to improve that performance. So I would say towards the end of Q3 and the beginning of Q4 is an excellent time to update some of these keywords on your product page and on the back end, and also measure the conversion rates for those particular products. So you know that if you drove improvement or you decreased improvement, you know that you have a benchmark that you're either growing and using strategies to help grow your footprint.
And underscoring all of this or underpinning all of this is the favorite R word when you think of SEO and PPC on Amazon and its relevance. You want your keywords to be highly relevant, and that is what will drive the impressions and then eventual click.
Absolutely.
Conversion of your customers.
So no keyword stuffing.
No. That's a waste of money and energy there.
That's right.
So yeah, I think your conversion rate tip, that expands on points that both Stephan and Iana shared earlier as well, that use your data, analyze your data, identify what's working well, and then leverage it. Whether it's on your product pages or in the back end of your listing, the data is your friend, and you need to really comb through those reports to find out what your most profitable and highest performing keywords are to ensure that you're leveraging them as much as possible in your listings.
Yes, music to my ears. And that actually brings me to kind of point 3, talking about data. I think that we just had pretty much a summertime holiday that was created by Mr. Jeff Bezos.
Oh, no, it's official. It's not pretty much. This is an official holiday now.
Official holiday. Mark it on your calendars. We had Prime Day just pass through. And what's fantastic about Prime Day, it's really a great precursor to the type of performance you could see during Q4. So in preparation for Q4, I definitely recommend looking back at your historical data. Look at your, if you haven't pulled it yet, pull it now so you could save it. I would wait till 14 days after the month for sales attribution. So on the 15th of the month, pull July's data. You'll have all of your Prime Day data, and then obviously use it right now, but also refer back to it when you're planning for Q4. And just to give you guys some perspective, if I'm trying to figure out inventory and how much I'm going to spend and everything else that comes along with an increase in impressions and users on a particular platform, we know based on this year's numbers that Prime Day surpassed Cyber Monday and Black Friday combined by about 60%. So you can pretty much take Prime Day's numbers, cut 60% off, and use those as projections for the Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday. And then addressing Christmas time, it's a little more gradual growth. But all that information, all that data can help you plan accordingly and be strategic as you're gathering more data and as you're getting ready for that final push from the end of Q4 entering into Q1.
Yeah, so Prime Day is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. Not only did everyone enjoy a sales bump or maybe even a personal deal for their own shopping on Prime Day, but it gives us some beautiful data to work with in preparation for Q4.
Absolutely.
One thing I was going to say about Prime Day, and it's something that we noted as a trend across our accounts last year in advance of Black Friday and Cyber Monday as well. In looking at the accounts that you manage, their performance in the weeks leading up to Prime Day, did you see the trend of ACOS rising in those weeks leading up to Prime Day?
Pretty much. We know that unfortunately we're relying on an algorithm and software, so there's definitely some latency. But what we saw was a higher ACOS generally around the week to 2 weeks before. And it was because a lot of users were shopping around. They were adding things to their carts and they weren't directly ready to make a purchase. But what's great about being on the advertising forefront is that we were able to keep front of mind. So although there's some really relevant keyword queries that we don't show up for organically, our ads were able to get in front of those customers, get some traction. And then what we saw in the second half of the month, and as sales attributed through August, we saw a large decrease in ACOS, as well as more efficiency on the platform. Yeah, and just the last thing on that, and how we were able to say, we had a couple customers say, oh, ACOS is really high. We weren't expecting the spend increase or whatever they weren't prepared for. The conversion rates held consistent on the pages. So we were able to get a good estimate of, we saw an increase in clicks by 100 to 200%. We saw increased spend by X amount, but we have historical data noting that the conversion rates on particular product pages were really strong. And it came to fruition that as sales were attributed, we saw conversion rates around our average for each particular product. And really, we had some pretty good targets and projections that ended up being pretty accurate based on that strategy of forecasting.
Very nice. And so I suppose like a sub tip to the leverage Prime Day data for Q4, a sub tip to that would be a warning or just a caution to not get concerned if in the couple weeks leading up to Black Friday, let's say, you start to see ACOS drive up. Know that this is related to customer shopping habits of researching before their purchase and wanting to make sure they're getting the best deal on that big shopping day of Black Friday.
That's right. And everybody's looking for a deal.
Aren't they? I count myself into that.
Me too.
I might have been driving up some ACOS inadvertently in advance of Prime Day.
So long as it wasn't our ads.
I would try to be respectful and not click on anyone's sponsored product ads, but sometimes you slip, you click on it.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your fourth tip?
My fourth tip, which isn't for everyone, it's programmatic advertising. And so Amazon has a platform known as AAP, which, love their acronyms. This stands for Amazon Advertising Platform, where it offers additional advertising services. And this is a self-service platform. And Bobsled, for example, is a company that manages these types of accounts. So what are programmatic ads? These are display ads that allow you to retarget customers, target customers that are in market, and to build similar audiences. And so what we have is we have a culmination of Amazon's user data, where we have access to their mobile devices, their desktop, the different platforms. And really what comes down to all these different touch points for you to target these customers a little higher up in the funnel. They also leverage some third-party service providers that do display ads. So with all that being said, it's a great move because you get front of mind. You're targeting customers higher up on the search funnel, and there's a huge opportunity to get these people to your webpage and more importantly to your Amazon product pages. So it's a little bit of a longer process. However, it drives results, and you can see it by increased organic impressions, increased brand searches, but it's something that's a slow burn. And why I say it's not for everyone is because Amazon's data, as well as the third-party tools it leverage, come at a price. So their sponsored product platform, they manage, they own it, they control all the data, and they built the infrastructure. So they're able to keep costs to a point where it makes sense to advertise. Using the AAP platform, they have to work with other members. And so there's additional costs that are involved, which make it a little more expensive. But I will say, if you are considering it or you think your company could be a good fit for it, I would point to sales velocity. I'd make sure that generally you're running an ACOS around 35%. The products that you would consider for this type of promotion have over 4-star reviews. And it's only because they're so high up in the funnel that you really want to lead with your best products and, retarget and target these potential customers. So it's a huge opportunity. It's a great platform where we're able to drive some solid results, but it's a little expensive and it's not for everyone.
Well, and to the point that it's a kind of a longer term play, or as you said, it's a slow burn approach in advertising. How far in advance would you suggest if someone's going to go this angle?
Yep.
How far in advance would you suggest that such campaigns are set up if the goal is to have it translating to Q4 impact?
Yep. So there's called advertising fatigue or oversaturation. So, technically we could start Q4 and we can just overload people. But what you'll have is that your ads will get less noticed, lower click-through rates, and generally poorer performance. So like most things in business, it's not a great idea to just rush into it. What we recommend is actually starting in Q3 because it's a slow burn. Ogilvy's theory that I like to reference is that somebody has to see your ad about 20 times before they even start noticing it. And this is a impression-based ad system. So we're not paying based on click, we're paying based on impression. So we're paying to be seen enough times to get noticed and then seeing enough time to observe or dictate a certain type of behavior. And so that is the difference. And that's why I recommend starting Q3, start slow, do your retargeting, then go broad with your similar market and your in-market segment, figure out what works, what doesn't work, then reduce your budget and try to optimize or operate as efficiently as possible going into Q4 so that you can get a rough idea what type of conversion to expect, what your return on ad spend is going to be, and what type of traction and inventory you might need to have. But it's definitely an excellent opportunity, especially for anybody who's been advertising on AMS and just, they can't spend enough money. They're owning a good portion of the impression share, which we have a few clients that fit that mold. But it also works for somebody who just has 2 or 3 stellar products, have a solid inventory, and can afford a little bit of a higher ACOS.
In either case, it's an interesting lever to pull to see what the impact might be. It's a new, unique opportunity that Amazon's putting out there.
Absolutely.
Well, Will, I really appreciate your time today. And again, I think that our listeners will walk away with some great ideas of how they can get their PPC in order as they get ready for the wonderful, magical time of Q4. So thanks for your thoughts.
No problem. Season that keeps on giving. Thanks for having me, Julie. I appreciate it.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. So I hope you enjoyed this roundup of our PPC experts at Bobsled Marketing. Lots of tips and to-dos from this episode, ranging from inventory to which types of reports to pull from Seller Central to analyze your keyword performance, what types of promotions work best with PPC, how to structure those campaigns, considering using display and retargeting ads in addition to PPC on Amazon. So by now, I'm hoping that you have a good long list of things to take away and put in place before Q4, because we are getting very close. And if you enjoy this podcast, I would love to see a review and a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to this show, because it helps other people to discover the e-commerce brain trust. Thank you for listening, and catch you next week.